Good day and welcome to Energy Bridge Africa. It is the link to powering the continent with myself, Fifi Peters. You'll recall in last week's episode, we looked at the role of public-private partnerships, or PPPs, in achieving energy security here in South Africa and on the continent. Today, we're putting the focus on the first P in that PPP equation, and that's South Africa's newly operational National Petroleum Company, to better understand its operational roadmap to making South Africa's energy sector more resilient and efficient. SANPC CEO Godfrey Moagi joins the conversation for more, so welcome.
Thank you very much, Fifi.
I'm actually glad that you're here because we have been speaking to several of your fellow stakeholders in the industry about the overall arching theme of energy security on the continent, where too many people are living now without access to sufficient energy. But of course, in your case, it's about you being a new baby in South Africa's ecosystem, corporate ecosystem, and also the corporate ecosystem of the public sector. It's been about 2 months or so since you have been fully operational, and the natural first question is how things are going.
Thank you very much, Fifi. I think actually the last 2 months have been, I'll call it fun, challenging, a lot going on. We managed to pull together 3 companies, I guess, SFF and PetroSA. We have transferred 402 people from those 3 companies. And I spent the last 3 weeks actually going around the country. Started in Cape Town, addressing the town hall meetings, just welcoming people to SANPC. We did the same in Saldanha, and then we ended up in Mossel Bay. I must say a lot of excitement. I mean, from staff, I think people look at SANPC as the new life. They actually looking at this is building the champion. And I said to them, you're building a champion, you are champions. So that's the message that is going across the organization.
Okay.
I must say a lot of challenges. I just realized how culture can stand in a way of change. We imagine 3 companies. They are from the same group, which is a SAF group, but there is huge difference in culture. Just, the way of working, a lot of resistance. People don't know what to expect, and you'll expect them to be a bit nervous. But I think on the bigger scheme of things, a lot of excitement, and we're pulling together. We've been doing what we call deep dives, spend time with HR colleagues, spend time with finance colleagues, spend time with projects to actually begin to look at how do we pull this together and get it going.
Sure. Well, I think that with any relationship, it does take time. The coming together of parties, be it 1 or 2, is a coming together of different cultures, which hopefully, especially in your case, is something that can get sorted over time. But I can also say that there has been a lot of excitement reflected amongst some of the guests that we've spoken to throughout the series about your launch as a National Petroleum Company in this country. A lot of excitement about how you will potentially move the dial in shifting South Africa's position as a net importer of oil and gas to one of a more sort of firm and resilient position. With that excitement has also become a lot of caution, as you know, just the legacy issues of state-owned companies and managed companies in South Africa, that the track record speaks for itself, and it hasn't been great. So I guess it's an understanding of what your mandate is exactly as the SANPC.
SANPC is a Schedule 2 company. We need to make money to sustain ourselves. That's the first thing. We've got a big mandate around security of supply. I mean, you'll remember that South Africa, prior to 2006, we were the net exporter of finished product, right? One thing that we need to avoid is fuel shedding. We have dealt with a lot of load shedding. The last thing that you want to see is cars queuing, because they cannot be supplied with fuel. So security of supply is going to be the big agenda item going forward. I think South Africa, after Nigeria with Egypt, South Africa is one of the third biggest consumer of hydrocarbon in the continent, right? And if you look at last year, I mean, we bring about 20 billion liters of finished product into this country.
Okay, so funny you raised the elements of partnership so early in the conversation. It's fantastic, just given that it was our last episode, and we spoke to the potential partners, maybe in your industry right now, being BP and Shell. And we spoke to them about, you yourselves as a partner, and what the attractive value proposition were or could be. And one of the things that the CEO of Shell Southern Africa, Aluani Musesi, said was the importance of the value proposition. I mean, the commercial aspect needed to make sense in forming any form of partnership in any way in the value chain. And what the BP CEO had said was the importance of understanding a common purpose, and the common purpose, in my view right now, being all of you are trying to ensure sufficient energy security. But I said, what kind of partnership framework are we looking at in terms of the ownership element? And you've mentioned it. And so with ownership and your partners, how would you be looking to slice the pie? Are you able to say at this stage?
Look, I'm not going to say. It will depend on project to project.
Okay.
But here is what I'll tell you. I think one of the things that becomes problematic is just how we tie ourselves up and try to do things that we are not good at. And we're going to have to look at which partner brings what to the table. Right? One of the things that SFF has got, we have run terminals, we've run operations, and we're not starting from scratch. If you look at the coast, we're very strong in the southern coast. We've got very strong position in the west coast, and we're now looking at the east coast, because those are the areas where we're going to have to bring infrastructure into play to be able to bring the molecules in. And for me, actually, some of those partners, whether it's Shell or BP, I think some of them, BP, we had some partnership in the Western Cape, and actually they forgot to tell you that it's working very well, right?
Sure. No, they did. They mentioned it.
So I think we are very clear, at least from my point of view, that they've got a game to bring to play, and we've got a game to bring to play. And for me, both of us can actually build powerful partnership.
So let's unpack the other elements of what you mentioned in terms of your mandate. You mentioned the importance of infrastructure development in achieving the overall target of security of supply. And I would also add that in the infrastructure development, we're also talking about the resuscitation of existing infrastructure in the form of some of the refineries that are not operating as they should be. But so that sounds like it's going to cost money. And a lot of money. At your launch, some of the figures that were being thrown around was a 95 billion rand opportunity potentially. So just talk to us about costing and how much you're going to need as an entity to be able to successfully implement your mandate.
Look, we started with a figure of 5 billion from the parent company, but I think that is just to stabilize the company, going forward, right? You must also remember that this infrastructure is not starting from scratch. We've got positions, right? But if you ask me, building a new company, you need serious amount of money, right? You look at the Durban infrastructure, we're going to be throwing a few billions there, right? You expect SANPC to do that alone? We can't, right? Anyone with a bit of sense would know that partnership is going to be important. So for me, the 95 billion is a journey, right? We're going to first start with stabilizing this company.
Interesting that you say that you are getting a positive reception from funders, because of course, as we shift towards this energy transition right now, you do have quite a number of lenders who are taking a stand on funding the fossil fuel or traditional energy sectors as opposed to renewables. So you're saying you're not experiencing that hurdle at this stage?
So we're having those conversations. SNPC, we're very clear. We took the bill to Parliament, SNPC bill to Parliament, and one of the things that we're very clear about is, oil and gas is a starting point, right? Because the world is shifting. People will tell you that 2027, 2030, you're going to actually reach the peak in terms of the oil demand, and then it will start declining. 2040, gas demand will start declining. And at that point, you're going to have to shift as well. Any oil company anywhere around the world is actually shifting in that way.
Yes, absolutely. And just as we wrap up, in terms of some of the things that are on your plate, top of mind right now, you mentioned the priorities being to ensure that you stabilize the entity, you successfully manage the integration of these three entities, and you bed down the one new culture, as it were. You mentioned that the target is to ensure that this SANPC is a profitable entity, and important, especially from where we're coming from as a country in terms of history. I'd just like to understand timelines. You can't give me the exact figures in terms of billions that could be needed to execute and implement some of your targets, but what time frame are you giving yourself to achieve here?
So maybe this is a journey. May month, 23rd, we launched, right? You know, I mean, we've been at this since the 1st of May, right? So year one, 25, 26, we're going to be focusing on stabilizing the organization. Pull these people together, make sure that we've got the systems in place, make sure that we are operational. Because here is the thing, one of the things that we cannot afford to risk is to create supply crisis. Because remember, this country, companies have been running security of supply. So we need to make sure that we cover the base. We also need to make sure that we are not bleeding value, right? You know, it's easier to actually rush to look at growth. That is why I don't want to engage too much on the 95 billion without actually making sure that you close the back door. So stabilizing is going to be in the first year, which is what we call cooling off period, right? And then we'll shift to the next level, which is going to be driving efficiencies. We have identified the price of 1.5 billion South African rands, just in terms of efficiencies. I mean, today, you've got 3 CFOs, 3 CEOs, 3 engineering managers. We're going to have to actually make sure that we optimize that. We may have to train other people into other areas, you know, to make sure that, and that's 26 to 27. 27 onwards, we're going to be driving growth, actually. But here is my approach. You know, you're going to get good opportunities coming now, because some of the opportunities will come now, and we're actually not going to wait for that. While we are transforming, we're actually going to be looking for growth opportunities. So, but if you want to say to me, when are you going to start seriously chasing this 95 billion? I would say the chunk of it will come 27 onwards.
Okay,
You know?
okay.
So that's the plan going forward.
We'll hold you to account in terms of implementing on that plan. But Godfrey, it has been absolutely fantastic just understanding from the horse's mouth essentially what the SANPC is aiming to achieve as a newly established entity in the South African energy context. My conversation there with Mr. Godfrey Moagi, who is the CEO of SANPC, bringing this episode to an end, of course. So thanks to yourselves for watching as always, and until next time, keep powering forward.